Welcome viewers. On behalf of Iravati Research and Communication Center, I am your host Pratim Ranjan Bose. In this episode, we will discuss about the recent security concerns on the Arabian Sea on India's west coast. I have with me retired Brigadier Niladri Mukherjee. He is also the Secretary and Executive Director of Kolkata-based think tank, SENERSK. We are very kind of you, sir, for coming over to our podcast time and again.
Thank you, sir. Kind of you, sir.
Mr. N.K. Mitra is a very well-known oil professional turned academic. He headed oil exploration and production of ONGC, Reliance, and GSPC. That takes you to practically the entire oil industry in India, upstream oil industry. He had also served top-notch global oil consultants and is currently teaching at IIT. Anant Mishra is a scholar in military strategy. He served 3 terms in Afghanistan, advising key military and political leadership of Ashraf Ghani government. He is an expert on West Asian issues. As you are aware, in the last week of December, an oil tanker carrying crude for ONGC's Mangalore Refinery and Petrochemicals Limited, or MRPL, suffered a drone attack roughly 100 kilometers inside the sea from the Indian shoreline. After this, Indian Navy started patrolling the Arabian Sea to ensure safety of merchant vessels. The decision recently helped a Liberian flag vessel to survive the attack of sea pirates. Now, just to add, the importance of the route is that it is not merely to serve India, but the entire cargo that is going to Southeast Asia and Far East, and China is passing through this route. So let me start the discussion with some quick takes. We have to remain conscious about time. Mr. Mitra, a drone attack not far from Bombay offshore, and in fact not far from Bombay, industrial areas in Gujarat and Maharashtra. As an industry veteran, how do you look at it? Briefly, sir.
Yeah, we have a defense control of ONGC installation in monitoring systems are there, about 400 installation in Bombay area. In Saurashtra coast, we do not have any installation, but we have exploration activity. The basic I want to touch it that Pakistan do not have any installation other than refinery. So most of the oil comes from India, from Russia, last year up to November. Per day, about 8.2 million barrels of oil was transported, oil and product to the Suez Canal. Russia, the India revenue was 4.2 billion from Russia business. Then after Saudi Arabia, then Iraq and Iran, and also Oman and UAE. So the oil continuing to come down. So it is due to this Houthis attack that is supported by Iran in the Red Sea channel. So they are obstructing any ships which are supporting Israel. But
my question to you, sir. My question to you is very precise. One, this incident took place 100 kilometers inside the sea. If I understand correctly, Bombay offshore is also 100 to 150 kilometers inside the sea. So we have installations there. And secondly is, any threat perception on this area should increase, or you can tell it better, whether that should increase the sea freight cost, because there will be a risk premium to it.
Yeah, definitely. But at this point of time, there is not much danger for oil installation. Up to 200 kilometer ONGC installation is there.
Okay.
Most of the cargo comes to here for Haryana or Bombay, or most of the cargo goes from there to southern part of India. So,
okay. So we have a critical information here that the drone attack took place 100 kilometers inside the sea, but ONGC has its installations up to 200 kilometers inside the sea. So this was just what we call is just a kind of trailer. If they wanted, they could have blown up something. So over to Brigadier Mukherjee, as a veteran, how do you look at the threat perception? Do you believe that Indian patrolling in this area should henceforth be normalized? And when I say in this area, I mean the international waters beyond the Indian economic zone. Over to you, sir.
Before I address your question in some detail, let me just begin by giving you briefly a little bit of details with regard to the kind of activities that have been going on in the Red Sea after the Hamas attack in Israel. I am told good about 44 countries' shipping has been affected in some measure by the Houthis, who have terrorized that Red Sea area for quite some time. Now, insofar as the threat perception is concerned, 200 nautical miles is our exclusive economic zone. And within that perimeter, we are absolutely well poised to take care of any situation that might arise insofar as the Houthis attack is concerned. We are also worried, let me tell you.
You are saying it is legitimate to us to counter it.
Absolutely. Within that economic zone, there is no doubts in our mind that we can retaliate immediately if such a situation did arise. Also, you must keep in mind that whether bizarre situations also happen. Are the Pakistanis somewhere also colluding, or would they, by proxy, try any stunts within that area under the guise of these things are not being done by state actors or by anybody in Pakistan? Is that possible? Now, my knowledge tells me the maritime technology available to all the navies at the moment of the world, we can pinpoint from where the attack came, where the missiles or drones were launched. And the US, for that matter, has also got evidence to say from where the Houthis had managed to strike the 2 or 3 ships that they have done. Now, insofar as threat perception is concerned, you would recollect that the US at the moment has immediately started to get hold of a coalition of about 10 countries, which they call the Operation Prosperity Guardian. The Indians have not joined it as yet. They are waiting and watching. Also, the Japanese and the Australians, although they have moved their vessels in that area, have also not joined.
So that takes us to Quad. That takes us to
Quad. Because I personally feel the Indian naval strategy is very clear. The Indian government's policy is also very clear. Joining a coalition, you will understand, Mr. Bose, that joining a coalition means commitment to various kinds of
political baggage.
It is a political baggage, and there are costs to be borne.
Absolutely.
And you have to be then look at the leader who set up the coalition and probably take orders at a point in time. You can't do your independent thinking. In our situation, we are also guided by the UN Charter, where it says that the sea lines of communication, 169 countries are party to that charter, and that if any vessel which is flying an Indian flag or bearing cargo for the Indian shores, and in this lines of communication, somebody interdicts without any call of a war at that point of time, the Indian Navy or the Indian security forces have every right to step in and stabilize the situation.
I have a question.
And also,
I have a question. The Liberian flag vessel that had suffered a pirate attack, and was it carrying Indian cargo? I am not very clear.
It was carrying Indian cargo.
Okay. Fine.
But there is another thing which is also filtering through. The recent action that the Indian Navy has taken with regard to the Houthis who fled, I'm told. Now, there are reasons to believe that the Houthis are actually targeting ships which are carrying cargo for the Israelis, or flying the Israeli flag, or they are flying the US or possibly some of these allies of which the Houthis are absolutely against. And they have not yet, I mean, to be specific, targeted any Indian vessels in that nature.
Let me interject. There are not many Israeli flagged ships.
I agree with you. There are not many.
It is not a case of.
There are. There are nations which are carrying cargo.
In the case of drone attack, someone found out that there was an Israeli owner or something like that, a very distant connection someone had established. But the bigger issue is what you are going to is, I think that is what you were answering, is that whether India, is this common for India to India said that they are mobilizing assets in the Arabian Sea. What does it mean categorically? Is it something, a new development? You also said that India did not join the coalition, avoided joining any coalition or any grouping. So what does it mean? Where does it stand?
Let me put it this way. India has always been very sensitive to the kind of security challenges that always arose when the Somalia pirates were off their coast, carrying out piracy or targeting vessels in the Red Sea or otherwise in that entire area of shipping. And to that extent, the Indian security forces have always been very, very sensitive, and they have been monitoring the situation very coolly and calmly. In this present context, the situation is very live. The Houthis, we know, are armed with drones, with missiles, and they have the capability of striking these vulnerable shippings.
They fired missiles at ships.
And they fired missiles. And I've got some statistics which I might just give out before the other panelists join in. Now, the Houthis have this anti-ship ballistic missiles called Asif 2022, which is of Iranian origin, with a range of 400 kilometers, having approximately 550 kg of explosives. They also have electro and optical and infrared seeker within 8 meters of a moving target that can hit the shipping. And they have a large number of drones, the Samad 2 and 3, which carry explosive payloads of up to 18 kgs with a range of 1500 kilometers. Their Falak 1 is similar to the Kharif, also has a range of 200 kilometers. So they are adequately armed. They are no ragtag organization as we always thought of them to be. At the moment,
these are like armies. These are not the way we have visualized terrorists.
Absolutely. And they can cause immense damage. Also, we must now notice that the amount of shipping which goes through the Red Sea, I was absolutely amazed to find that 12% of the global trade passes through the Red Sea, 8% of global grain, and 12% of seaborne global oil, 30% of global container traffic, estimated $1 trillion of goods pass through the Red Sea annually. If this is the kind of situation there is no doubts in my mind that the Indian Navy has to patrol that area. They have already moved in, I'm told, 10 vessels, of which 3 are medium-range battleships in that area. They are waiting and watching whether they want to join the US coalition. I don't think so they will join, because there is no reason to join a coalition at this juncture and then get absolutely, we have to walk a very thin line, Mr. Bose, because of our sensitivities with the Muslim world in that area. And therefore, we should not be seen siding with a coalition which is absolutely pro-Israeli and that kind of a situation. We will only take action if our interests are high.
I think given our interest in West Asia,
absolutely.
We have been bold enough to stand by Israel.
Absolutely. So therefore, at this juncture, I have a feeling, to address your question, the threat perception is there, definitely so. Are shipping by mistake or otherwise, or if they are carrying cargo, even if we are sending cargo to the Israelis or to anybody else and it is targeted, it is quite on the anvil, and therefore it is right for the Indian Navy to patrol these areas as they have started doing now, of the level which was not there before.
Okay, just for the sake of layman, is this kind of patrolling or mobilization of assets, as you call it in your terms, I know India had been participating in this Somalian anti-piracy thing, but this kind of mobilization in the international waters, is it new or it has been there?
There have been instances where the odd naval vessels have carried out patrolling off the coast of Aden, where the Somalia pirates were very active, but not in the nature as we see now in the Red Sea area.
Exactly, sir. Exactly. So this is something, a paradigm shift in the system.
Absolutely paradigm shift, and the Indian Navy has wisened up to the fact that this area has to be patrolled.
I will get back to this point to you later. Now, first, Anant, he has been patiently waiting for some time. Anant, you deal with an area which most of us don't know anything about. I'm not saying brigadier, but me and Professor Mitra just read newspapers and tell. So tell me, is it an accidental attack? Now, we proved vulnerable. We couldn't resist. We don't have an Iron Dome or something, as Israel has. So they just attack. Tomorrow they can jolly well demolish something in Bombay or Maharashtra or Gujarat, even if it is a misfire. The question is that why is it a misfire? And is it that only we should be concerned about these Houthis? Or there are other elements? And why there is no discussion otherwise anything about Pakistan, which is barely 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers away, their coastline. Okay. Can't they have drones? They have very good air power compared to us. So over to you.
So there are few, Mr. Bose, there are few things that I must get this audience or the listeners a bit correct. So I was part of the discussion with the US Central Command, and since mid-November, 23 commercial ships has already been targeted in the lower part of the Red Sea. Now, we've been talking about Red Sea, and we need to understand where Red Sea lies. It is south of the Suez Canal. And the idea is this particular territory connects Europe not only to Asia but also with Africa. And Bab el Mandeb is an area which is the point of contact for the Houthis, where they create a sort of influence to target the ships in this particular strait. Where does it lie? It lies in the southern side, which is next to Yemen. So now with India coming into the place, before India came into place, Operation Prosperity Guardian is something that the Americans, the French, the UK, Bahrain, Seychelles, among others, they launched already in an effort to ensure that the ships and mariners traveling through the Red Sea are safe. Now, according to the US Navy, 1,200 ships have crossed across the Red Sea since the announcement by the US. And in this particular operation, they've shot down multiple Houthi anti-ship missiles and drones that are they are trying to create a nuisance of some sorts. What you talked about was two particular incidents. So one is MV Chem Pluto and one is MV Sai Baba. Now, Navy has already deployed 4 destroyers, Project 15A, 15B class, to mitigate the threat. And Boeing PADI long-range anti-submarine aircraft, Dorniers, and early and late advanced helicopters are already available for reconnaissance. So our engagement in terms of providing a reconnaissance in this particular area has already been tied up with the Americans. We do not have to physically mobilize. The government is very clear until and unless it poses a direct threat. Now, when we talk about Houthis, we are essentially talk about an Iranian-backed segment, which is in parity to Hezbollah. So, what are Houthis? So
by Iranian dispensation.
Yes, because they are Zaidi Shiite movement. So whenever a Shiite movement arises in any part of the world, particularly in this territory, Iran comes up and stake claim. So Hezbollah was a creation of its own. The Houthis came up, and Houthis took the Yemeni capital Sana'a in September 2014. So since then, they've controlled much of the North Yemen by 2016, and the engagement between the Yemenis currently it has been happening with the Americans in this and Saudi Arabian presence to provide to provide some sort of assistance at some point of time.
I have a small question here.
Sir,
Understandably, I don't know what strategies or anything, but understandably, if I am there, I want to target, create some trouble somewhere. Now, understandably, I should not make everyone my enemy so that all join hands and attack me, right? So why should they come up to Indian shores and launch an attack?
they're not coming to Indian shore, sir. Iran, see that now this is something that very
This drone
interesting.
attack is directly linked to Houthis by the US.
Yes, it is. It is. But then, but the thing is, Houthis and Hezbollah are parasitic creations. They were thinking a consciousness of their own. So if you're assuming that Houthis and Hezbollah have an Aka sitting in Tehran who's providing a direct contact, just like Jaish-e-Mohammed or Hizbul Mujahideen, that is not the case here, sir. They've been funded, they've been aimed, they've been targeted, they've been constructed in an organizational hierarchy. They have their own joint operation command center where all of these institutions come together and their leadership liaison sits in to collectively make plans and operations. But the independent thinking and planning are being given to them at the tactical level to the tactical commanders, which do not necessarily take control or which do not take orders directly from Tehran. So you may say, or we all agree that Tehran is in charge or Tehran is in control of Houthis and Hezbollah, but the order dispensation and the hierarchy has been segregated completely. Now you'll be also surprised to know that most of the IRGC. So in the Forge, what happens is you go and serve as on deputation to Rashtriya Rifles. Now it's a crack unit. You serve there for 4 years. You serve there for 2 years, depending upon your deployment. Similarly, in IRGC, they go and serve in Hezbollah to get as much as experience as possible. But they come back and join the conventional forces. IRGC guerrilla unit is Hezbollah. Similarly, Houthis are trained by Hezbollah and they've been financed by Tehran. So if they target a ship which has Indian containers in it, it's not necessarily that they're targeting because of India. They're targeting because it is simply sailing in that territory. So second, if Iran wants to harm us, the only possible way that they can literally harm us is Chabahar. Because today, Chabahar controls the humanitarian aid we are essentially giving to Afghanistan. No Chabahar, no India in Afghanistan, Chinese entering into Afghanistan territory, we are essentially cut off. So if they intend to hurt us, they'll hurt us there. And they have been doing it. It's not that they haven't been.
Yes.
But in terms of the war in the West, I wouldn't say that it's dedicatedly to us or Tehran is doing this. Tehran is going through an identical crisis. Now, their identity is compromised because they've got only Houthis and Hezbollah to defend their front. If America and Israel comes together and do a coordinated attack against Iran, they don't have assets to defend themselves. So they would largely rely on.
That was exactly my question. That was exactly my question. That from a layman's perspective, I was just wondering why would someone sort of make everyone his enemy? If he has an agenda, he should he should be secretive about it. He should be very tactical about it. Giving some, leaving some kind of things. You're fighting with
absolutely.
someone. But again, back to the topic, it doesn't make sense to us to, if they think that, well, this ship has one Israeli owner, so we have to eliminate that. And that way, trade and commerce cannot work really. When you book an oil tanker, you book an oil tanker. You are not seeing that. And shipping finance is an extremely complex thing. We all know. So it's really impossible. And it is ultimately, my worry is, Mr. Mitra, is that I think, I'd like to know whether you share the same worry, that this will increase the cost of imports or, either way, it is going to hurt us economically in the longer run.
As per today's report, India is going to lose 30 billion and 44% shipping movement has been down Indian companies. Our 44 company has rerouted their ships through the Cape of Good Hope. Our 10 days extra time is there. If you take the average of what has been transported through this Suez Canal last 10 months, about $491 billion. Based on that, 30 billion is lost. And product transportation and other goods transportation is going down by 6.7%. India is going to lose money. Not only that, there are 6 installations there in the Red Sea, 3 from Egypt and 3 from Saudi Arabia. Iran cannot afford it because there are 800 installations there in Persian Gulf, about 7 to 8 countries, 800 installations, 25 terminals, and 159 rigs are there. That oil to be evacuated. So they cannot afford directly to Houthis because jihadis are circulating that, they are supporting this. But Houthis are self-sufficient at certain level, and their commander is different. What is told by my earlier speaker, Mishra, I agree with him.
Okay. So here is in fact, someone, this conspiracy theorists would also like to point out that, suppose if something, oil price is very sensitive to disruptions. So another disruption and some more oil price and some OPEC members or Russia, whosoever is gaining. But I think that's a far-fetched argument, because given the current level of demand situation in the world, right, further any disruption and increase in costs would only slow down the economy more and reduce the consumptions. So
last 2 months ago, the oil price has gone up to about almost $88. Now today it is a WIT 73 and Brent is 78. So there is ample chance oil price will going to increase. About 87 to 86% our import of crude oil comes for all our refinery here. Our self-sufficient is 14%.
right.
Out of 240 million ton metric ton refinery product is there, about 14 to 16% we are self-sufficient, remaining oil comes from outside.
Right.
Even refinery is a 60 million refinery in Bhavnagar of Reliance, that most of the oil comes through this channel from South America.
Right. So one thing is certain, this disruption is going to impact, has a impact on India's growth. Small or less, big or less is a different issue, but it has an impact. So Brigadier Mukherjee, yes, I'm just coming to you, is that I have pointed questions. In fact, I am sure you got it. One is, of course, we are probing who did it and whether there could be many others who could do it. One, and how vulnerable are we to such attacks? Second is another also a pointed question is whether we ended up saying that during your introductory comment, is that there has been a paradigm shift wherein India has stepped in as an active security provider on the Arabian Sea. Now, if you kindly elaborate on this point, because earlier, US had taken almost the responsibility on its own to govern the world. And we know the Chinese interest also in this area. So over to you, sir.
I'll make 3 quick points. Firstly, as things have evolved after the Hamas attack on Israel, Iran, one of the key players in this entire area, has been looking at the entire war that is going on in Gaza. And it has not been able to, should I say, contribute in any manner which hurts the US interests and the Israeli interests, to be really precise, except for making, should I say, very threatening media statements. So what does it do? Some of the actors which they have over a period of time, like the Hezbollah and the Houthis and all, whom they have trained, they are funding, and they are these organizations are fronting for the Israelis, have now probably been brought to bear on this entire area with two aims in view. One is that how do they, at this juncture, somehow or the other, take, so to say, revenge on what is happening in Gaza insofar as the US, the Israelis, and the backers of Israelis are concerned. Notwithstanding the fact that this will be an unstable situation insofar as economic activity in this entire area is concerned, but it will put collective pressure on Europe, on the US, and others to decide this Gaza-Hamas situation in as quick a manner as possible. We have yet not found any Chinese footprint in the area. We have neither found any Russian footprint in the area. But we are very much sure that the oil-producing nations in this general area are also getting affected. And they have, as you know, I had this article which I was reading that the combined maritime forces which the Gulf Cooperation Council countries have organized for themselves are very concerned with what is happening in there. And therefore, whether the Iranians would continue to do this, I have my doubts. And now that the coalition under the US-led coalition has started taking action in this general area, things are going to cool down. But insofar as the shipping is concerned, like Mr. Mitra mentioned, that already there has been 40% deployment of shipping in this general area. They're going around the Cape of Good Hope, 6,000 nautical miles are added. Approximately 2 weeks more time has been added. $1 million to each of the shipping is taking place.
Yes, count it in money.
And count it in money. Absolutely, and absolutely huge amount of money, and that is 250%, like you were mentioning the other day when I was discussing with you, increase in tariff and insurance and all that. So this is, I have a feeling this is not going to last. I don't think so. In another week or 2 weeks' time, by and large, this will be taken care of. That is mine.
Okay.
But the other question that you had mentioned, if I may just conclude,
yeah.
The other question that you had mentioned, insofar as India is concerned, I think India does not have the resources to continuously patrol this entire area around the clock. It will be active in this general area, yes, till such time the situation stabilizes and goes back to what it was earlier. If it isn't, India has no options but to protect its shipping, as also cooperate and coordinate with this coalition that has been formed. That is what I see at the moment. They have deployed, like it was mentioned earlier by Mr. Mishra, about 10 vessels, 3 destroyers have already been deployed in this general area. And the assets are going to remain there for some time, actively patrolling this area.
So you are not saying, one is that US is distributing its self-imposed responsibility of governing the sea to Quad members. And secondly, that India is not lapping up the opportunity considering the risk it has with, or the rivalry, whichever is true, vis-a-vis China, which has already established its footprints on this route. You are not saying that that is a possibility, immediate possibility.
Yes, I personally feel that the US is at the moment not going to outsource. It is still of the opinion that it is the superpower of this planet, and it is not going to so easily let go and outsource this entire problem to the other Quad members or some of the active state players which now comes into this area.
Okay. Anant?
Mr. Bose, may I, sir?
Oh, yeah. Just one point from Brigadier Mukherjee's discourse is,
Sir,
what he said is logical, that they made the war so big that it has to now, it is impacting everyone. It has started impacting everyone. It's no more a pocket of Ukraine-Russia kind of situation. So and that it should be curbed, or there should be a solution. Do you think that there is going to be any quick improvement in situation?
Uh, Mr. Bose, I have a very different I would have a very different opinion than Brigadier Mukherjee. What he said is what the officer said was very right. But the game theory here is we may say that it's going to dial it down, but looking at Benjamin Netanyahu's commitment to drive Hamas to the sea, I am not sure, and I am on the basis of my interactions, on the basis of my previous engagements, it's not going to dial it down. So there's no other way to put it. It is going to escalate. Now, taking three engagements in this particular area is first is the US, second is the presence of the engagement of Iran, and the involvement of Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthi, Yemeni, Saudi, Qatar, UAE, all along the regions in place. For Hamas, it is a fight for existence. For Iran, it is a fight for dominance. For US, it's a fight to defend their face and protect their West Asian policy. For Russia, it is re-emerging from the Russo-Ukraine war, trying to portray or relive or reflect the dominance that it had once. For Qatar, again, a dominance in the West Asian politics. For Turkey, the significance of Turkmen in the region, and the lost ability or the chance lost during the Taliban engagement in Qatar. So the idea is there are a lot of moving parts involved here, and for the Chinese again to come in as an external actor with the ability to bring in or negotiate peace. So with these moving parts along, if you put it in a blender, it's going to create much more intense engagement in the next coming months to play, which I'm not very optimistic about. So the idea,
Just question is that whether it will also whether the heat will be felt in the Arabian Sea also.
Yes, absolutely. Because where do you think the Gulf of Muscat, the Gulf of Mannar, you have most of these crossing points all the way from that connects Mediterranean to Europe. So
Absolutely.
where do you think the refugees from the Syrian war went to Europe, and through which route? They went to Turkey, crossed through the Mediterranean, reached Italy, reached Spain. These keep passing points in entering into Europe. So the idea is that the heat is going to escalate because it is a fight to defend for Israel the identity of who they are, for Hamas a fight to existence, because if Hamas decimates, there is not going to be any more Hamas or elements such like these for a rest of the century. It is an example that Hamas intends to play that they are not finished. Hence, Iran comes into play and say that we still dominate the regional politics. It doesn't diminish when Iran and Saudi relations, I would say, normalized in the event of a couple of years later, or a couple of years ago. It's not going to affect, or it's not going to impact the current scenario or the situation at any point of time. So for Iran, it's not only dominance, it's also creating an influence among other nations as well.
So do you have any timeline in mind?
I do not. I deal with net assessment, but I do not. I'm cautiously optimistic. But this engagement, until and unless Gaza is capitulated, or the Israeli authorities take over the governance of Gaza completely, Gaza is going to be the next. I would say Mosul. The Gaza is going to be the next Fallujah, if Brigadier Mukherjee knows what I'm talking about. Urban battle is going to be the next scenario in Gaza for a couple of months. And urban battle is one of the, or built-in areas battle is one of the most crucial ones, where you flush from room to room, from housing to housing, from community to community, from one building to another building, till the militancy is capitulated.
Can't there be
So
a
this is-
political solution in between?
Political solution comes after elimination of Hamas, because Netanyahu is absolutely clear. Hamas needs to die. Hamas needs to go to the sea. So until and unless if Hamas is not died it down, surrender, the hostages are released, there's not going to be a political solution.
Okay.
I have point.
Yes, sir.
Last night, Israel government has given extra $536 million for attacking Beirut city. So it is not an easy solution. Next point, most of the Indian oil come through this channel. About 4.8 billion Russian oil comes to India. Second point. Third point, 4 to 8% LNG transported through the channel. China is also dependent like India. That's all.
Okay. So I think it's time to wrap up, and I have a feeling that the Israel, Saudi Arabia, and all these greater coalition and etc. that you were talking about has been suspended for quite some time, and much more importantly, the IMEC is suspended for some time. I mean, the IMEC, the first leg can happen, but the second leg connecting Israel. And third and most immediate concern is that there can be a growth impact due to these disruptions. I hope if Brigadier Mukherjee allows us to, we can end at this note.
I have just one point to add
Over to you,
while
sir.
you wrap
Please.
up.
Final
And
word.
I agree with most of what Mr. Mishra said. I have only two things to say. Most of the oil producing nations will also look at this entire destabilizing situation that is going on in the Red Sea with a little bit of turmoil taking place, with a little bit of, should I say, seriousness, that they should not allow the things to escalate to such an extent that their oil, which is the only redeeming feature insofar as these Muslim oil producing nations are concerned, gets affected the way it is now going to be, with 12% of the oil, of the entire oil going through this area. So therefore, I go back to what I said, that the situation has to be stabilized, and nations like Bahrain, Egypt, Jordan, and all, they'll join up with the US in trying to tell the Saudis and the Iranians, lay off, and let's reduce the situation to normal. Also, the situation insofar as the Israelis are also under tremendous pressure. Backroom pressure is tremendously there. Although the Americans have definitely ceded to this point about the Israelis, that look, so far as the Hamas is concerned,
to finish it
yes,
first.
we will allow you to
Everyone
finish.
is looking for a quick solution.
Absolutely. And Anant is very right. It is going to be a bugger's muddle there. When you fight from building to building, it is not going to be easy. And the Hamas is not going to let off so easily. So to that extent, it is not going to be an easy quick fix. The Israelis are going to buy casualties as much as they do damage to the Hamas themselves.